Hey guys. Okay, so it's halfway through the morning. I've done a lot of my stuff and I'm about to spend several hours on the phone to my sister. So I figured it would be a really good idea to start this bread off before I do that. And while I talk to her, I can have the bread rising. Ta-da! Simple. Plus, we've done some washing this morning, or Tanny has, and I know he wants to use the dryer. So this room will be heated up by our dryer. So that's a really good reason to get it started as well. Okay, so we're gonna get into it. Okay, so we got our stuff. We have our yeast, we have a double O flour, which is like bread flour. We've got our salt, we've got our sugar, and all we need is lukewarm water. Now, if you're not sure what lukewarm water is, it is basically hand hot. Alright, so the best way to get that, if you're really unsure, is 1.5 cups of cold water. Okay, so we're going to put that in our jug. 1.5. And we're going to get some hot water from the kettle, which is just 1/2 cup of that, and that should be plenty because that's just boiled. So there we go, 1/2 cup of that, and that should make it lukewarm. Okay. Yep. It basically, it's warm to the touch, but it's almost like you can't feel it. Okay, so blood hot. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to actually activate our yeast. We haven't got like fresh yeast because it's way too expensive, and we buy the yeast when it's on offer. So we're going to put maybe 1/2 cup of water in there, and then we're going to put 2 teaspoons of our yeast. If you're working in grams, 2 teaspoons is not 8 grams. Each teaspoon is actually 5 grams. So it should be 10 grams right in here. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit of that in there. A little bit of that in there. And to make it go, I should have probably put it in first, but we're going to put in 2 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, to make it go. Make it activate, make it go all floofy. Alright, so we're going to put that in there. Give it a bit of a swizz. There we go. Doesn't matter if you swizz it, it'll still activate. Okay. Alright. And at this point, that's kind of what it looks like. Hang on a sec. That's what it looks like right now. Now we're going to bugger off for 10 minutes and we'll be back to see what happens next. Okay, so it's now been about 10 minutes and we've got some floofy stuff in here. That's the yeast that's activated in there. So what we have to do now is we have to measure out our flour. Now, I'm going to put 4 cups of this into our bowl. Move out the way, you lot. Seriously. Okay. So we're going to put... Yeah, it doesn't fit in there. So that's 1. That's 2. Hang on. If I put... That's 3. And we need the other packet. Oof. It's double O flour, has a little bit more gluten in it. It's a lot finer as well, so you should end up with a softer bread. It's also really good for making pasta with as well. We bought it a little while back when the farm shop up the road was still working. It was still a farm shop. So, yeah. And there's number 4. Right. Done. Okay. Now the next bit. We need to add our salt, which is 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to use my Maldon salt because I can. 1, 2. Okay. And then I'm just going to make a well in the middle of this. So we got ourselves a bit of a well happening. And we're going to tip our yeast mix straight in there. Okay. And then we're going to stick the rest of our lukewarm water in here as well. Okay. And then all we have to do is mix it up. So I'm going to get my little unicorn, my magic unicorn helper. And all we have to do is mix this round until it's incorporated. Now apparently this is a no knead bread. And we like the idea of it being a no knead bread. We do indeed. Now you don't have to use the 00 flour for this. You can use normal plain flour for this as well. But don't use thingy flour. You know, self-raising. That would be silly. Okay. So we got all that in there. And there like that. Now this is supposed to be quite a wet mix. It doesn't look very wet to me. If anything, it doesn't look wet at all. It's quite a thick mix, but that could be because we're using the 00 flour. It might be worth, I don't know, would it be worth putting a little bit of extra in? I know it says no knead bread, but I just want to get the rest of these bits in here like that. So I'm just kind of incorporating it a bit. Ooh, that's sticky. It may stickify back up, so who knows. So I'm going to leave it like that. And we're going to get ourselves a clean tea towel and stick it over top. Now we've got our clean tea towel and we've just wet it. Okay, you want to get it wet so that it makes sure that everything stays in where it's supposed to. It is clean. I just got it out of the thing. It's just very stained, so we're going to have to do something about that eventually. And now we just got to leave it there for a couple of hours. A couple of hours. That's it. Hang on. Okay, so we've moved the bowl to above the dryer. Okay, and Tanny's about to turn that on. And hopefully, a couple of hours, we'll see what's happening. See you soon. Oh, shit. Hey guys, so I've come back to the bread and it's been 2.5 hours and I've got to say I'm not impressed. It hasn't risen very much. It's still quite a solid mass. It hasn't come out the way the recipe said. So what I'm going to do is what another no knead bread recipe says, is to leave it to rise overnight. So I'm going to do that. But I'll give you a quick look at what it looks like right now. So there you go. I've actually put plastic wrap over the top this time. It doesn't look right to me. It doesn't have the rise in it it should. There wasn't anything wrong with the yeast. The yeast was fine. And 2.5 hours later and it's really done very little. I've done a little bit of a fold on it to make it all sort of a bit more, you know, molded together. But I'm going to go and put it on the table next to the heater and hopefully it will rise a bit more overnight. We'll come back to it tomorrow. Good morning guys, it's 6 AM and I'm about to finish the bread recipe. Okay, now our bread has now been, or the dough has been rising since 12 o'clock midday yesterday. This is what we've got so far. I can't say I'm impressed actually. I'm really not. It hasn't really risen the way that I would have hoped it would have, and it's not as wet as she said it was going to be. However, we're going to get this cooked off and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to put it in this because I think this is going to be big enough. I can't see this really rising any more than it has already. That says to butter your dish. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so done that. And then we're just going to pour this in now. Oh, it's quite sticky. I wouldn't call it liquid though. Now while the oven is heating up, it's on gas mark 9, which is 475 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty much as high as your oven will go. In the first 15 minutes you cook it off in that. So while it's coming up to temperature, this is going to sit in here just for a little minute, and we'll come back and chuck it in the oven. Now once it's been, oh, there we go. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so basically what we're going to do now is we're going to put it in the oven for 15 minutes on gas mark 9, which is as high as your oven will go, basically. Okay, and then so it's going to be in there for 15 minutes, and then we've got to drop the temperature down to gas mark 5, which is 220 degrees Celsius or 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and we'll see what happens when all of that is done. Okay, so straight out of the oven I have our bread. Now it's risen a little bit. It has risen a little bit, and it's all goldeny and yummy looking. Now apparently it should fall straight out of that onto a rack, so I'll just rack. I need a rack. Oh my god, I haven't got a rack. Shit. Ow. Got a rack. So I've got my rack. Stick that there. So that's supposed to fall straight off, but to me it doesn't quite look cooked under there actually, just quietly. So I'm going to put that back in the... Oh shit! Okay, you guys know that it's like really early in the morning, right? I'm going to put that back in the oven for a little bit. Yeah, I am. I'm going to put that back in the oven for a little bit. Okay, I'll be back. This time it came out. And it's got that lovely hollow sound going on, which means it's cooked. Now it's got to sit here for 10 minutes before we can eat it. Now, this recipe was supposed to make 2-quart size loaves. Yeah, it's hard push to make one, to be fair. Honest. We'll just see how it goes. We'll see how it tastes later on. We'll come back. We'll come back to this. Okay, so this has been 10 minutes now and it's still very lovely and warm. It's got a lovely crispy crunch to it, like crispy crust. That's the word I'm looking for, crust. But what I want to do is I want to cut off a piece here. Have a look at the inside. Oh, it's quite spongy on the inside. Could be. It's quite dense, which I was expecting because it hadn't risen a lot. But it smells pretty good. We'll give it a crack, see what happens. Now, Tanny isn't hungry yet because obviously it's the crack of doom. It's still dark outside and he's just not ready to eat. So, I'm going to cut me some of this for my breakfast. Oof. Oh, far out. Oh, wow. Okay. And I'm going to put some butter on it. Or rather margarine, because that's what we've got. Okay. Oh, nice. Melty. Melty, melty. 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 Yes, I'm having the endy bit. I don't often have the endy bit. Okay, and now I've got some of my blackberry jam I made earlier this year, if I can get the lid off. Tanny! Thank you, honey! Lid and off. Oh, wow. Look how thick that jam is. These blackberries grow wild in our front garden. So, quite chuffed with them. And the fact that they've come out, oh my God. That's amazing. Of course, I'm using one of my pixie spoons. Ha! I don't often have jam, but I'm quite happy to have it like that. I'm going to leave the endy bit without any jam on it because I'm going to try the bread as it is. I'm just licking the spoon. Right. Okay. Oh, that jam's amazing. That's got to be one of the thickest jams I've ever made. That's awesome. Okay. Fantabulous. Right, meet you at my desk. Okay, so I had to finish up in the kitchen really, really fast because the cat wants feeding. She's like, I have been waiting for all of my lives. So, okay, so it's that time of day. So this is our bread. This is our yummy, yummy bread. And I'm going to try it with some of the jam on first. Because, haha. Oh. That is hard. It's quite chewy, but it's not as dense as I thought it was going to be, which is good. That's a good thing. Then a nice crunchy crust. Obviously that's not going to be as crunchy later on. That'll get soft as it cools off. But it's nice and crunchy right now. Actually, this might be worth revisiting. Where I either use twice as much yeast or I open a new box of it. And this is a bit with just butter on it. As you can see, texture in there is not too bad. And it's quite squishy, so it's it's not bad. And for 23p a loaf, I'm not cross with that. Okay. Alright, I'm going to go finish my breakfast. You guys, I'm going to put the recipe down below. And yeah. We'll try it again sometime. When I've got some better, some fresh yeast. Or fresh dried yeast. Can't afford the real stuff. Anywho, I will see you guys later. Have a really, really good day. And if you can't be good at it. But be kind. And I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.